Welcome to Video Game Compendium with your hosts Ian and Casey. Today, we are going to learn about region coding.
How do you feel about region locking?
For the most part, it doesn't bother me. However...
What?
All right.
No. I feel like you're wrong already.
Okay, let me explain.
Okay.
The games I like to play kind of required them to be translated, but the games that I want to play that don't need to be translated don't get released here anyway, so I have to import them.
Okay.
And lucky for me, the consoles on which I would like to play these games have not forced region locking. With the exception of the 3DS. I think the 3DS going, well, not back, because...
No, they went back. They regressed there.
Well, yeah, okay, so the Game Boy didn't have region lock, and then the 3DS to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to start region locking stuff, that was some nonsense. I didn't like that. Because then there were some games that were coming out on the 3DS that I would like to play, but I don't want to buy two 3DS consoles.
Oh, so you don't want to be like me and have like 4 3DSs?
No.
Why not?
There's many reasons I don't want to be you, Casey.
So let me start from the beginning then.
All right.
And I will tell you how pretty much every console generation has done region locking in case you were unaware. And then you can give me your thoughts on this.
All right.
Okay. So to start off, I'll only probably be talking about major consoles. I won't do like the
3DOs.
Yeah, none of that Panasonic shit. Probably not the PC Engine. I don't even know if that had any other region, so I don't think that matters.
Yeah, don't know enough to tell.
Okay.
So before we get started, can I assume you're not a fan of region lock? Is that where this is going?
Not at all. Like, I hate region coding, region locking, all of that. I think it's bullshit, to be honest. And I get really frustrated when modern consoles say, oh, it's region free. And it's like, no, you just make sure that the developers put out games that have no region, but the console itself is still region locked. I will get to that, though.
All right, get to that, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so to start from the very beginning, we'll say the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, aka the Famicom in Japan, would be our first system, and that one was region locked. However, they had a bunch of games that had an adapter inside of the cartridge, right?
Okay, so today, when you put a disc in, I mean, the disc is the same disc, but the region lock is done at like a software level. So weren't the Famicom cartridges like a different size or something?
They were, and that's where the NES carts had a Famicom adapter in them, so you could actually like plug it in to this adapter, which would then plug into your system.
Okay, so you could bypass the physical region lock,
right?
Or like the physical constraint across regions. Okay,
and it was only in select games, and the way you can tell. And this isn't even for all of them. It's kind of a crapshoot. But if it had 5 screws, so if it was one of the original style games, and only certain games had it, like a couple examples, Donkey Kong Jr., Duck Hunt, Elevator Action, Excite Bike, they all, if you pop them open on a 5-screw game, there's a possibility you could have that Famicom adapter.
Oh, so you would have to actually pop the cartridge open and then manipulate it in some way.
Yeah, and put your actual Famicom... Well, you'd pop the NES cartridge open and put the Famicom game in this adapter that you could then put in your console.
Oh. Okay, that's bananas.
Yeah, it is pretty bananas. But it didn't have a real region coding, essentially. Kind of like the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Super Nintendo didn't have a real region lock on it, but they put 2 plastic tabs in the console that prevented you from sticking Super Famicom games into American Super Nintendo.
Okay. So another, like, physical restraint.
Right.
Okay.
Those you could easily break off. Like, honestly, if you had a soldering iron, you could just push the soldering iron into those tabs, and there you go. You're out of.
You've bypassed region logging.
However, Super Famicom games, since they were a different shape, you can't put a Super Nintendo game into a Super Famicom console because the shape of the cartridge was different.
Aren't they like narrower? Because the Super Nintendo cartridges are super wide.
Right, they're wide and they're like a rectangle.
Yeah,
I was gonna say a square, and then I thought about it and I was like, no, they're rectangles. And then I remembered that all rectangles are squares.
No, all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. Come on, son. This is 101 stuff.
It's still a square, either way.
It's all right, forget it. Stop. Geometry is not your strong point.
But it was.
Well, it's no longer, so sorry. So at this point, we still have no software that's actually checking to see what region the game belongs to and whether or not your console is supposed to be able to support it.
Right. Well, it was more of a thing where it was a deterrent, I would say.
Okay.
Less of a, like, oh, you can't do this, but more of like a, well, don't do it, but it's possible. So the Mega Drive, a.k.a. the Genesis,
yes,
was basically region locked. Like, it wasn't really possible for you to play on a opposite console. One, because the cartridges were different shapes. Two, because the pins didn't match, and that's why a converter was necessary in order to do that. So
the little circuit board card that actually pops into the console, the pins are
different. Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's a pretty large hurdle, I think, as far as deterrents go.
Right. And, I mean, they came up with tons of different converters. Like, there was probably 30 of them on the market during that time. So it's just as easy as, like, buying the converter, slapping your other region game in, and off you go.
All right. Why do you think they had so many different workarounds? I mean, at the age of the Genesis, importing wasn't a big scene. At least as big as we see it today.
I think it more has to do with, like, copyright law versus anything else. So money gets in the way of that. Because certain games, or like even movies follow this, they're subject to being copyrighted in certain countries. And the holder of the copyright reserves the right to not allow it to be sold in other countries.
Okay.
And so this was their way of preventing you from trying to circumvent copyright law, even though it obviously wasn't too difficult at the time.
All right.
The next console, it is similar to the Super Nintendo, and it's the N64, Nintendo 64.
All right. Those were way different. I don't know what you're talking about. One had a really dense, small cartridge that was heavy, and one had a really, some might call it square cartridge that was light and didn't weigh anything.
It's a square. It's a square.
No, it's not.
I will fight you.
A square has equal sides, man.
I'm going to leave that pause in because I had to think about that.
All right.
See, my strong suit isn't geometry anymore. It's knowing about fucking video game region coding.
Shit. All right. Well, then let's get back to that.
So the reason I said it's similar is because the N64 wasn't region locked. Instead, the N64 Japanese cartridges had two tabs more towards the middle, and the American Japanese cartridges had two tabs outside. So all you had to do was cut out those tabs, and you could stick a Japanese cartridge into an American system, or vice versa.
Okay.
So there was no actual block there.
So the pins were in the same position. There was just, I imagine there was like a tooth gap in one. If you think of it as like a row of teeth, there was a big gap in one, and the other one had like something in there.
No, it was more of like a mouth guard, if you will.
Oh, okay.
And because there was like actual plastic pieces, not in the pin area, but that would prevent you from physically pushing the cartridge in.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. I got it now.
All right. So in that same era, the PS1 did have region locking, and the system did check to see if it was this region or this region.
Okay, so this had to be some software digital type stuff going on.
Right. I think it has to do with the way they wrote the CDs, the way that they were authored, because it really depended. However, there was a cool trick that you could do on the PlayStation 1, the original big gray rectangles.
Yes.
And the PS one, which was the smaller white one.
Yeah.
You could hold down the lid button, essentially. And the lid button, as long as it's held down, the game would spin. Well, if you put in a US game into your US system, the game would spin and it would speed up during its startup phase. And then it would slow down. If it slowed down, you pop that game off and you put a Japanese game on, right? That disc will do the same thing. Okay. It'll speed up and then slow down, and then you put the American game back on, right? It sounds convoluted, but it's super easy once you actually do it.
Yes.
The screen will turn black, and that's when you switch back to the Japanese game, and you can play it.
Yeah, so that swapping trick, that was my first experience with region-locked games. I had a Bomberman game that was imported, and I had to do that trick on the big fat gray PS1 that I had. And yeah, it was pretty easy, but the first few times I was like, what the fuck is this? I feel like I'm gonna break it. This can't be right.
Yeah. See, I had a bunch of Japanese games, so I was like super pro at it, and I was never worried about it. However, I tried it in the PS2 on a friend's game.
Oh my god.
Wondering if it would work. Hell no, it didn't work. And I scratched his disc, and it prevented it from working again.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was back when like the laser to read had to be like right next to the disc. So if you ever hit the system while a disc was spinning, it would cut those thick grooves in there and just destroy your disc.
Dude, I love those thick grooves.
Yeah, those grooves.
Those thick, meaty grooves.
Those deep cuts.
That was also the introduction, the PS1 was the introduction to like mod chips in a major way. Because importing started picking up and like wanting to play Japanese games. So they had tons of different mod chip options that you could go through, and it was fine if you knew how to solder.
That's a pretty big barrier to entry.
Well, right.
I'm being sarcastic.
I don't know. Soldering's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you said you are being sarcastic.
Yeah.
I'm a dipshit.
Yeah, that's okay. One day you'll learn what a square is.
Psych. Right after that was what? PS2? Was that the start of the next generation?
Well, it depends on how you wanna calculate timelines. I do believe the Dreamcast is technically next.
Sega Saturn.
Oh snap! Totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So the Sega Saturn, they had, the RAM, or was it a RAM or a ROM cartridge slot?
Yeah, it was some expansion bay. Okay,
so that the system was region locked. However, they had basically Game Genies. That you
Action
could
replays.
Yeah, put in that. Is it a RAM or a ROM slot?
Just say expansion slot.
Okay, it's an expansion slot. I want to be technically correct though. I want to feel like I'm smart about something, except obviously I'm not.
You're striking out today.
Jesus. So yeah, you put it in there, and then it would allow you to play any other region games.
Okay.
Which was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Obviously.
How many regions, give or take, were there? Was Europe its own thing at this point?
Yeah, it was mostly Europe, Japan, or Asia, and then us.
Okay.
There are some parts of Asia that would use Europe's, and it all had to do with PAL.
Okay.
Essentially, whatever area used PAL is what would have to use the different region.
Right.
Versus NTSC.
Right. So but that was a console restriction more than a game restriction, right?
Right, and actually, I was going to talk about that towards the end, is most of Europe runs on PAL, and that sort of prevented some of these games to be region-locked, but only because of the way PAL versus NTSC works.
Right.
And you know how that works, right?
Yeah, we can get into that at the end still if you want to.
Okay, but that was the biggest thing preventing some old games, especially from being able to be played on from a European console to an American or a Japanese console.
Got it. So region locking was not a terrible thing to do in that situation, right?
And I guess back in the day, not necessarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're in the same. We both use NTSC, Japan, and us.
Yeah.
AKA the US.
Yeah.
Us. That's why I keep saying us. So to me, it was like, just let me play my fucking Japanese games. Like, fuck Europe. Like, I made fun of them last time. I'm gonna make fun of them again.
Man, we're not gonna get a lot of repeat listeners from Europe.
They're gonna be pissed off. They'll be like, you know what? Fuck you and your NTSC, you stupid yank.
Wanker.
What other? Yeah, you bloody wanker.
Oh God.
Okay.
Moving on. Quickly,
now that I'm done offending everyone from the Europe region, the Dreamcast. It was region locked,
which is so stupid.
However, they did no piracy protection at all. So the game didn't actually have to be authored properly. So you could just literally burn a game, and what do you know? It works.
Pop that bad boy in. Bam.
So if you wanted to import games for the Dreamcast, all you had to do was burn a boot disc, slap it in, and then boom, off you go. They didn't really think that one over very well, but I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah.
That leaves next up PS2, GameCube, and Xbox.
Yeah. Tell me about those guys.
They all had different ways of doing things.
Okay.
The PS2 was region locked, but they had a few ways to circumvent that. They had like a flip top is what they called it, which for the fat PS2 was like basically a lid that opened up on the top.
Oh yeah.
Rather than the disc tray.
Yeah.
And then you would just use a boot disc that would boot to a specific part of the game. And then you put in the Japanese Japanese game, and then it would start off where it needed to. Or you could use a mod chip. The Slimline PS2 was nice because they had a software way you could do it.
Yeah.
You could literally just boot to this thing via USB called ULaunch Elf.
Yeah.
At least that's the one I remember using. And it would allow you to... You had to run an official game, and you would boot in the software, and then you could play any game, burned or otherwise, with it. There was a limitation to that, though, because if you played too small of a game... Because basically it would read the whole disc real quick and figure out how much data there was, and if the game was too small and didn't reach the entire span of the disc, it might not play whatever burned or... import game that you have.
Game. Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, it was very strange, and I actually ran into it once when I was playing... I don't remember now. But they recommend you use God of War, because that's one of the biggest games for PS2.
Right. Yeah. That was a big one. I think I used the Devil May Cry 2.
Devil May Cry also was very good to pick.
Yeah, because it was a heavy game.
Yeah, and then obviously mod chips worked with PS2. Basically, every console after PS1, mod chips were a thing.
Yeah, I've never actually done hardware modification to play imported games.
I did because I modded my PS2, but I didn't. I had 3 PS2s that I had to mod. I had a fat one and 2 slim ones that I ended up modding because one of mine broke. So that it's not as bad as some people make it out to be, but you definitely have to be savvy of what you're doing. Otherwise, you will fuck it up and you will not have a console any longer.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was the, I don't know, the consoles have always been these pure little boxes that I don't feel like going in there and messing with them. They're too precious.
That's weird to say about a video game console.
I guess.
I did go out and buy a Japanese PS2 because I eventually got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to be burning any games, so I have no point in modding it anymore. Yeah. So I just bought a Japanese PS2, and I have an American PS2. That way I can play whichever I want. I still have a modded one though, because when we were hanging out, I got that Korean game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kessen?
Tenchu.
Tenchu,
the stealth assassin, was it?
Yeah.
But it looked okay. If you haven't, go look up the Korean cover for Tenchu for PS2 because it looks way more badass than the American one and the Japanese one, and it was just like super dope. And I was like, "Damn, what's this game? It looks fire as hell!" And then it was just Tenchu, which wasn't a bad game, but
yeah, you should still play it because I mean the box art makes it look like a totally different game.
And I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might play in a Japanese PS2 because I think that they were the same region, so I think it would work.
Give it a shot.
I will.
All right.
GameCube. I never modded a GameCube, but I know of the ways that you can because they had boot discs that would work, and then they also had like an attachment that came into the bottom that you just plug in, and you had to use a boot disc still, but that's the best way to do it.
Right.
They also had a pretty easy modification that didn't require a mod chip. I don't remember how to do it, though. But it was region locked. So you couldn't play any Japanese games on your American console.
Yeah. Do you have any imported GameCube games?
No.
The only imported GameCube game I've ever seen anyone own
Naruto?
is Naruto.
Yeah, the Naruto fighting game.
Yeah. And I've seen that one like tens of times. Just from going to conventions and stuff. Everybody has that game.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you got a GameCube? Oh, is it oh, okay, yeah, let's play this Naruto game. What? Why does everyone have Naruto? I guess they like to run with their arms behind their back.
Yeah. I thought that was Dragon Ball style.
No, no.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball is for cool people. Naruto's for not.
Dragon Ball, they ran with their arms like straight out at the sides. Krillin and Goku, when they were little kids.
Dude, have you looked at Krillin? His head looks like a Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Of course he's gonna run weird.
Goku did it too.
But Goku can do whatever he wants. Dude's badass.
I'm not giving him crap. I thought it was cool.
You're giving him crap.
No. It looked like
a little bit.
That's how I run now.
I run like Naruto. I like to run with my arms behind my back. It makes me more aerodynamic and I can run faster.
Yeah, I bet.
Did you ever have an original Xbox?
Original Xbox, I never owned.
That's good, because that console was basically the console for American gamers, and that's it.
Yeah. I do have all of the good games for it, though.
You have none.
No, I have Panzer Dragoon and Jet Set Radio Future.
No, you're supposed to say, yeah, I have none. But
No, there were two. There were two good ones, and I have them.
No, well, there was a couple good ones, like a Togi 1 and 2.
Nah.
They had a Shin Megami game.
We don't talk about 9.
They had one.
We don't talk about it.
What other exclusives? Oh, the original Ninja Gaiden, but that got re-released later.
Yeah, Chaos Theory Splinter Cell was fun on a bun. I really liked that game.
That was for PS2, though.
Yeah.
Armed and Dangerous. That was fun.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Either way, console was region locked.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
They had a soft mod for it
Uh-huh.
that allowed you to use USB like program essentially, and a copy of like Splinter Cell, Mech Warrior, or the old copies of 007 Asia Under Fire. You had to pair those two up, and it was kind of like the way the PS2 mod worked.
Yeah.
Xbox modding was extremely popular for some reason. Like
Americans.
I've seen more like pimped out Xboxes with like lights and shit.
Yeah.
Like, yo dog, I heard you like Xbox, so we put an Xbox inside your Xbox type thing. And I was always just like, why is the Xbox so popular for modding? And
I think, well, I mean, you've seen like PC cases that are just tricked the fuck out. I think it sort of draws some of the same crowd that gets into that.
Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
trick their cars and, you know.
The original Xbox allowed you to play old games on it, like emulator style.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about all that.
Yeah, so that's probably why so many people did it.
Yeah.
I don't like the Xbox very much. I have a friend who's like obsessed with it, but I just don't like it very much.
Fair enough, man. I never owned one.
That's probably good.
Is what it is.
So I would say older consoles, while they had the region locking in it, it was usually like a physical barrier that could be broken.
Mm-hmm.
Where when they switched over to disc-based, that's when they went ahead and put the software barrier, and the actual system would check for what region you're in.
Yeah.
And it probably changed a lot based on the fact that DVDs have like 6 regions.
Yeah.
And so you have to play the region that you're in. Though I don't know if the way that PS2 like games or anything like that are authored any differently, or if it's just the way that they print the disc. Because I don't think they follow the conventional region locking like Blu-ray consoles do.
Oh, yeah. You think you might be right about that. But like on the spine of PS2 games, you see NTS.
NTSC?
Yeah, NTSC printed on them. But that's not the DVD region.
Right, that's the game region.
Yeah.
Because it says NTSC-J and NTSC-U?
Something like that.
I forget.
Whatever it is.
So then that leads us to more of the, I guess, modern consoles, which would be like Wii, Wii U, 360, PS3, and the newest ones.
The newest?
I'll get to...
Okay, alright, yeah, let's keep going.
I'll get to handhelds also, for anyone listening that goes, why the fuck didn't they mention the Game Boy? So the original Wii console and the Wii U both are region locked, but they both had fairly simple soft mod ways that you could break that region coding.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty beneficial, honestly, for the Wii to have the soft mod on it, because you could play so many games and you could store games on your drive then, and you didn't have to keep the disc if you didn't want to. The Wii U was the same way, though I don't hear as much about the Wii U, and I think that's mainly because it's just not as popular of a console.
Yeah, no one talks about the Wii U for any reason, let alone what the modding scene or whatever it's up to.
The Switch, though, they're obviously Nintendo's newest console, is region-free completely. I'm not sure if they could impose a limit later, like, oh, this specific game we only want in this region, so it'll only play for a Japanese console. I'm sure that they could do it, but what they said is that all games are region-free. And actually, I have a Japanese game for my Switch already, and it plays just fine. And in fact, it translates the game from Japanese to English. I don't know if it's the full game is on cartridge. It did make me download an update when I put it in.
Okay.
And I don't know what that update was for.
Uh-huh.
But as far as I know, I stuck it in, and it treated it like a US game, even though it didn't come out in America in physical format.
Just by treated it like a US game, you mean it's in English?
Right.
Okay. Without going to a menu or option and setting the language.
I didn't have to change anything.
So when you set up the Switch, do you select a language, right?
Yeah, you have to select a language, and that actually determines, like, if I set Japanese to my language for the system, it would play that game in Japanese.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't check the region. It just checks your system preference.
Yep.
Okay. That's pretty dope.
And going, like, to PS3, that had region locking technically, but Sony basically required that if you made a game for their console, it had to be region free. And
right. So I feel like Switch has this as well.
Same thing.
Yeah. I have a feeling that.
Well, the reason why PS3 is probably different is because PS3 actually used Blu-ray discs, and there are 3 regions for Blu-ray discs: A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
A being America, Southeast Asia, and there's a couple other places. B being Europe and some other PAL-based countries. And then C is other countries that I don't even remember at this point.
Okay.
But when they make their game, they don't make it region-free. They just make it region-all. So you get A, B, and C on the disc. So you can put it in any Blu-ray player or any PS3 for that matter, and it will work.
Okay.
I think it was Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah. That was the first and only that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that was region locked for the PS3.
Yeah.
And ain't that some bullshit? But it was like every other game for the PS3 that I can think of and that I heard of was region free or region all.
Right.
That's what you run into with the Xbox One and the PS4 is they're technically region free based on the fact that Microsoft and Sony say, hey, we want you to make these available to all regions so you don't have to play it on a specific console.
Right.
But they could easily go, well, this publisher decided to make their game region locked, so we have to follow that.
Yeah, much like Atlas with Persona.
Yeah, what a...
So I read their reasoning on that was basically they know that their fan base is super weeb and will import. 2,
Right.
It's a fighting game, so English text doesn't matter. 3, they wanted to release it in the States because, especially after Persona 4, such a huge following, they could definitely make some money off of it, but they wanted to do an English translation. So if they didn't region lock it, we probably never would have got a release over here. Because there would have been no market for it.
I still feel like that's a weak excuse. It's like they could have still released it over here and not locked it over there because
but if they didn't lock it over here and they released it over here, or if they didn't lock it in Japan and they wanted to release it here, the already niche-ish market, they would have sold so many fewer units. At least that's what they were afraid of.
I guess, but I feel like a lot of the fans were big enough fans to want the story because Persona 4 Arena actually had a story to it.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to miss out on the story just because it was in Japanese. So I feel like a lot of people, even though they probably would import it to play it, would also get it in English so that they can actually read it.
Maybe you're giving them too much credit.
I probably, but at the same time, it's one of those things.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the second one wasn't region locked, so
The Ultimax?
Yeah.
Well, that's because the game was already out at that point. Ultimax just added extra content.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the PS4, Sony has gone on record saying that they strongly urge developers and publishers to make their games region free.
Right.
But it's, I guess, up to them in the end if
Ultimately
they want to or
up to
not.
them,
Yeah.
But, so Sony could ultimately say, well, we're not going to license it if you're going to region lock it. Right?
They could, yeah.
So.
But to me, like, Sony is the one who owns Blu-ray technology.
Yeah.
And I feel like they should make their consoles actually region-free and not like this half-assed attempt at region-free where it's like, we require you to make your game all region when we could easily make ours region-free, our console region-free.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason they don't do that is because movies. 100% movies are very heavily dependent on region.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I mean, their hands are tied, basically.
But they still make region-free Blu-ray players. Sony does.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's why I just wish they would just say, like, hey, it's actually region-free. There's no locking on it that prevents you from putting in any region disc in here. It would be very nice, but it's not going to happen.
What are you going to do?
Backtracking a bit.
Yes, this is my favorite one.
Oh, the Wii U's your favorite?
No, we already talked about that piece of garbage.
Psych, I got you. Xbox 360.
Yeah, buddy. Tell me about it.
It was region coded.
Was it though?
However,
was it though?
It was, and they had soft mods and like mod chips that you could do. And actually, the soft mod was actually really easy to do. So it was. However, they actually let publishers decide if they wanted to. Okay, all right, hit me with it. I know you're like aching to talk about this right now.
Yeah. So my favorite 360 game came out, and I knew it was coming out, and I was like, "Oh man, this game looks so good." Wait,
was it Pocket Bike Racer?
Yeah, dude, don't spoil it.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
So, man, I was seriously about to invest in a Japanese console so I could start playing these cave shooters that weren't coming out here. And then Cave goes, "Oh, guess what, you guys? The Mushihime Sama Futari is going to be region free." Oh!
So all I heard was Sneak King was region free.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's your favorite game?
That's my favorite game.
Okay, so you're like the Burger King.
Oh, I am the king of the Burger King.
Oh, okay.
No, but seriously. Mushihime Sama Futari, the limited edition and the standard edition, both region free. So you gotta believe I imported that as soon as I could, and it was worth... I don't even know how much it was at the time.
Well,
it was worth it. So much fun. Still play it to this day.
Wasn't there another one?
Yeah, there was another one, but
the other one?
So after the Mushihime Sama Futari experiment, Cave goes, oh, guess what, you guys? Our next shooter, Escaluda 2, is also going to be region-free, except the limited edition.
Oh, man. They played you like a fiddle.
So I felt like I was slighted, because maybe they were upset that all their limited editions got exported to people like to people like me, and they claimed that they just missed the submission deadline for the limited edition.
I feel like that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's BS. I think it came with one of those faceplates for the original models, something like that.
Hold on, can we go off on a tangent here real quick?
I think so. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, the faceplates for the original 360.
Yeah,
those things were dope as hell.
I know, right?
It's like allowing you to have a different console whenever you want.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, check this out. I got this limited edition Blue Dragon console.
Yeah.
Psych. It's a limited edition BioShock console.
Psych. It's 4 limited edition Eternal Sonata consoles.
5.
5? Oh, come on now. Now you're just being silly.
But no, like, that was like a really cool feature of the original Xbox 360 where it's like, hey, I want to change the aesthetic of my console. Bloop. There it goes.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, tangent over, but I just thought that was really cool.
No, I think that was amazing. Those faceplates are not region locked, are they?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
I'm joking. They're not. But Japan did get some badass faceplates that we didn't get.
Dude, import them. Come on. You don't have to. You don't have to have a boot disc to install those.
Hey, I like my boot discs. I still have my PS2 boot disc.
I have a Dreamcast one. That's about it.
Did you burn it?
Come on.
Come on, son.
Come on. Actually, I didn't find out about Dreamcast burning until way later. Like I was in college, and someone told me that you can just burn games. So I was like, seriously?
I knew that from like way early on.
Yes, I didn't run with illegal crowds like you did, so I had no idea.
I got the most illegal of crowds that I run with, aka you.
Say what?
What? Jokes for days. Okay, so did you learn about like PAL versus NTSC in school?
Not in school. I don't think so. If I was supposed to, I didn't pay attention. I don't know.
I feel like that would be something that in your field you would have to learn about.
Oh, you meant like in college?
Yeah.
No. I thought you were talking about like back when it mattered, because it doesn't matter anymore.
But that's what I'm asking. Did you learn about the differences then? It's just so irrelevant at this point that they were like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, so tell me what you know about PAL versus NTSC.
Well, they're different frame rates and aspect ratios, basically.
Yes, and they actually run at a different frequency.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the frame rate.
Okay.
Frequency.
50
hertz, right?
50 hertz is PAL, 60 hertz is NTSC.
Yeah, so that actually causes some problems when you're trying to play games on different systems.
Yeah. It'll stretch them out or make them look weird, and it will also cause like weird tearing issues.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the original Mario ran at 30 frames per second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
So in case you were wondering about that.
No, I wasn't really.
Well, piss on your shoes then.
I guess that is a fun fact. I'm sorry to rain on your fun fact.
Yeah, on my fun facts parade.
Yep. You got any more fun facts for me?
Yeah, fun facts about handhelds in region locking.
Oh yeah? I got a fun fact about that.
Okay, hit me with your fun fact first.
Fun fact. So, you're talking about this I Am Setsuna thing.
Yeah.
Where, but actually, the Game Gear was region-free, and some games released in Japan, if you pop them into a Western Game Gear, the game recognizes the region and has English text, if it was fully translated. It's not like a for free thing, but there are a couple games out there that do this. That's still cool. That's so cool.
Considering how old it is.
Yeah.
The Game Gear console was so shittily built.
It was a nightmare.
It was just trash.
It was the
capacitors in it were so bad.
Hungriest thing of all time.
Yeah, the console itself was cool, the way it played and everything.
Color, backlight, portable screen, come on.
The actual console innards was just so bad, and they shit the bed with that.
What are you going to do?
Not play it? I don't know.
They tried. I'll give them credit for trying.
But pretty much every Game Boy iteration, original Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, GBA SP,
Pocket,
Game Boy Pocket, those were all region-free.
Yeah.
However, I think there was a few games that were region-locked.
Really?
Yeah, I think. I'm trying to remember here.
So this was up to the developers again, and the publishers.
Yeah. I think there was like one or two.
All right.
But I don't remember.
Okay.
The DS was region free.
That's right.
So you could play any...
The way God meant it to be.
Except when they got to the DSi. The DSi specific games were region locked.
Both of them?
All two of them were region locked. I mean, how many DSi games were there? There was that picture one.
Yeah, the picture one's the only one I remember.
It's kind of like the new 3DS console that supports new 3DS games, and only Xenoblade Chronicles runs on it.
Yeah, what the heck? I have this new 3DS, and I got this fancy little rubbery stick nub thing above my face buttons, and it doesn't do anything. And then the ZR and the ZL buttons, they're just there for show. I don't get it.
The 3DS was also region locked, though.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing. That's the only thing that really bothers me today.
Is that the 3DS was region locked?
Yeah, because there's finally DS games worth importing, in my opinion, and I just have to wait for them to come out here. It's sad.
Yeah, you need to be like me. Get a Japanese 3DS.
Just give me that one. You're not using it.
Nah, I'm good.
Did you play the Yokai Watch Busters yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, you gotta get on it.
All right. I'll play it tomorrow.
You better.
Okay.
Finally, you get to play something on your Japanese DS that you can enjoy without having to read.
Yeah,
because for some reason, the only Japanese games you have are so text-heavy.
Yeah, and I also had Shin Megami 4.
Yeah.
And I tried playing that, and I was like, no, this ain't happening.
Dude, I still can't remember like what Tsukukaja and Raju Rajajo and Mikarodadio
what they all do.
I can't remember what they do. But seeing them in Japanese, oh man, I'm not even gonna try.
Dude, it makes me want to learn Japanese just to be like, ha! I know what it says, but I'm not gonna.
No, you're not. That's not enough motivation.
So, 3DS, unfortunately, is region locked. But Sony played it smart with their handhelds.
Yeah, they did.
PSP, Vita, both region free.
Region free.
Region free entirely.
How it's supposed to be. Well, it's still up to the developer.
There's no games for the PSP.
That's correct, but
or the Vita.
Asterisk, it's possible.
I guess, yes. Theoretically, region locking is possible on pretty much every modern console, but I don't think that it would fly in this day and age.
No. Do you think part of the reason Sony went away with region locking is they felt like region locking gets people into modding their consoles. Modding their consoles gets people into piracy. Yeah. Therefore, no more region lock, less reason for people to modify their consoles.
That's a solid thought. Going in, that would make perfect sense, because then people, if they don't mod their console because they can buy it, they're actually legitimately buying games then.
Yeah.
And that's more software sales for them, for the developers. Like, It would be a win-win everywhere. Yeah. So I don't see why that would be a crazy thought at all.
So, crazy thought, why did Nintendo region lock the NES in the first place? Because the Ataris and the Colecos before never had this concept of region lock.
Did we talk about how I think it has to do with like licensing?
Oh, you did when it comes to DVDs.
Well, I think that might be like another reason why region locking existed for a while for games.
So, if that's true, Super Robot Taisen 5 is released in Japanese region with English.
Subtitles, yeah.
Yeah, but there's no region lock. So, and so for those of our listeners who might not know, Super Robot Wars has robots from all these different TV shows and video games, etc. And the problem comes when you try and release that game in the United States. Each of those different shows might have licensing agreements with different companies outside of Japan. And so it's a huge legal nightmare to get all of the license owners to agree to release the game and for them to all get their cut of sales.
Right.
So the way they're getting around that is only releasing it in Japan region, but offering English subtitles and Chinese.
I mean, I would really like if other companies, like Capcom, kind of picked up their game with that, and if they release a game in Japan, especially their re-releases that have localizations already done, they'll slap the subtitles right on it. Like I have the Japanese Okami HD for PS3.
Oh yeah,
I put it in, it plays in English.
That's cool.
So I think
I don't know if it doesn't sound like there's a licensing problem with that. I think that the market in the States is too small.
They didn't want to print the game.
Yeah.
But I still wanted it. Mm-hmm. Obviously. I have a fucking Okami tattoo on my arm, so...
Yeah, and your face.
What?
That one you got on your face.
Dude, don't tell anyone about that.
Oh.
My hair hides it.
Okay.
I don't have a tattoo on my face.
You don't have hair either.
What?
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 Alright. So we were talking about handhelds. Is there anything else?
That's pretty much it. Right? Pretty much all handhelds were region free except 3DS.
And the couple DSi games.
The two DSi games they released.
Well, the UMDs on PSP were region locked because they're DVDs, and you have to region lock those.
The UMD movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, the UMD media things.
So the way licensing works for movies is a lot different.
Yeah.
Especially like Blu-ray. Like you'll have like 4 different companies making Blu-rays, but they all have to be in a specific region because that's the only region they have the rights for. Mm-hmm. And so UMD movies, I'm not surprised that they did the same thing for that because you had to have it for that specific region. Otherwise, you couldn't produce it that way.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person that still has a UMD movie collection.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I'll even when I go to stores, I'll look for them.
Really?
Because they're usually super cheap, and it's like...
Yeah, because no one wants to watch Kill Bill in 720 or Beavis and Butthead's Greatest Hits Volume 2.
You know, I will fight you on that because...
Go ahead, man.
I'll watch movies however I can.
All right. You're weird.
You're weird.
All right, fair enough. All right, so that's region lock. Thank you, Casey.
That's how region coding works.
Yes.
For pretty much all the major consoles.
All right, now I know.
Now I know. If you'd like to reach us on Twitter, you can find us at VG Compendium, or if you want to send us an email, go ahead and send one to vgcompendium@gmail.com.
Dude, did you see this cat fucking dancing all over me?
What a baby.
Like a little banana. Little banana. Little banana. Little banana. Little banana. Little banana.